our expectations obviously going out there were just like, we want to kill a good mule deer buck. But I mean, we definitely saw some giants. I mean, is it reasonable to say that at least on a residential side or resident side, not residential, that people can successfully kill some pretty big bucks in that western part of North Dakota in terms of mule deer?
Oh yeah, no, it's kind of a hidden gem. The Game and Fish Department has done a really good job in managing the mule deer,
Mm-hmm.
and especially like I had mentioned earlier that we had 2, 3 horrific winters back to back that basically we lost about 50% of the herd.
Wow.
And so they shut it down. And I remember going around on those advisory meetings, and I went probably to about 4 of those, and they had about 8 or 10 of those set up throughout the state after the second horrific storm winter. And we talked about, we had hunters saying, shut the season down. Let's take a year off. Let's get these deer back and everything. And so they shut it down they shut it down for a year. They didn't even bring up the does, I think, for about 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
And to bring that population back up.
Hmm.
So they've done a really good job on managing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had adequate moisture. Since that time, we've had some really good soft winters where it hasn't been really bad. We've had adequate rain, a lot of resources. We're seeing a lot of the does having twins.
Yeah.
Whereas with mule deer, the difference between mule deer and whitetail deer will bounce back a lot quicker because
very much
they
so.
average two fawns darn near every doe. Whereas mule deer, I want to say that average is like 1.2 or 1.4 or something like that.
Gotcha.
And so they don't bounce back as fast.
Mm-hmm.
But we were seeing a lot of twins and everything out there. So we're getting a lot of good production. We're seeing a 25 to 25% increase year over year.
Wow.
With that limited hunting, that it allowed some of these bucks to get older and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of nice bucks out there. And every year I keep saying, God dang, that's the biggest buck I just saw. It's like this last fall, I was out there, and of course, the best way to see the biggest mule deer buck in your life is not to have a tag for
it. Yeah, right. Exactly.
And I had
make sure you get a flat tire.
Tag.
Make sure you run out of gas. Don't have a tag.
And I had this buck stand up, freaking 150 yards, not even 150 yards from me. I was way back in there, stood up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a big buck. But I couldn't see him too well yet because of the sun and everything like that. As soon as he crested the top of that hill, he had 2 drop tines on either side. He was big. That rack went past his rump by a good, 4 inches on either side. And I'm just like,
you have to drop a pin.
But no, there are some really nice bucks out there. We've had really good weather. Now, the concern that I have right now is we're in a drought. And last year it was drought conditions, but the animals are still doing fine. I'm really worried this year.
Okay.
I'm talking to landowners. I talked to one of our landowners out there 2 weeks ago, and he told me, he goes, Marshall, I've never seen it this bad. He goes, we had 4 inches of precipitation since October.
Wow.
That's it. I mean, we're North Dakota. You're supposed to have snow.
Yeah, I was going to say feet of snow.
Yeah. And it's just, so I'm very, very concerned about, when you have bad, you don't have rain, you don't have adequate food sources.
Yep.
Your antler growth is not going to be optimum.
Yeah. Sure.
Now, granted, in North Dakota, there are spots, that are pretty good. You get, right now, southeastern part of North Dakota, which is whitetail country. There are some muleys over there. You're going to have beautiful racks over there. I mean, they've been adequate moisture. Way up to the northwest, up north of Williston and stuff, which is mule deer country too. They've had adequate moisture and everything, so they should be fine there. But going straight west here, I'm a little concerned.